Yo, what is up, YouTube? It's your boy TPG back at it again with another video. Today I'm going to be going through all of my DZBT02 Illusionless Strife, excuse me, deck lists. So I think there's 6 or 7 decks from this set, and I've come up with a list for all of them. If there's more decks that I didn't make a list for, please feel free to leave a comment in the description down below. Of course, as always, leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff if you like my content. It really helps out what I'm doing here, especially growing the channel in these different ways. But first, before we get started with today's video, I'd like to introduce you guys to LightTCG. LightTCG.shop is your one-stop shop for all places Cardfight, Vanguard, and Shadowverse Evolve, and other card games. LightTCG is a family-owned and operated online trading card game shop where they still have plenty of good offers on everything upcoming for Shadowverse Evolve and Cardfight Vanguard with some of the best prices on the market. And today those prices can get even better if you use code TPG. Again, that's code TPG for 5% off any order off LightTCG. I'll have a link in the description down below as well as that promo code. Thank you again for the sponsor, and go check out LightTCG.shop. So the first deck I want to talk about is Rewrite the Star Vyrgilla. Vyrgilla, I don't really know how to say it. This is the manga deck from Skyride. I think this deck's really cool. I think right now it's in this weird spot where it's pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't think this deck is good, but I will tell you, we went to 2 sneak previews over the weekend, and of course, you know, this ride line was honestly the best you could get for sneak preview. If you pulled the full ride line, you were looking real pretty. I never pulled it, but I did win my second preview with 1 copy of Vyrgilla. There were some funny combos you can do, but either way, I will preface this with right now this deck is not very good. I do think this deck has a lot of potential in the future. It has the makings of being simple but strong. And in Japan, they got a whole promo deck set inside of like a Koro magazine. I'm hoping we get that in some way. It would be nice if like they released it as like a starter product, but I also don't know if it's worth like $10. It's probably closer to like the $5 ones they originally released. And it has its own like special support in that set, and in there it's actually pretty strong. However, like what you can build like right now out of the box is kind of mid. I'll go over it and I'll explain it to you guys. Really, unless you're playing cards that can gain power on their own, which is what we're sort of focusing the deck on, unless you persona ride, it doesn't really do much, because the restand, it's nice having that 4 attacks, and it seems like something that would be pretty strong in like a I don't know, a slower format. Or basically what I'm trying to say is the grade 2 turn of this deck is insane. Let's go through the ride line and then I think I'll get it. So of course you have your grade 1 Vyrgilla. You know, pretty cool card, doesn't do anything though. The second grade, the grade 1 gains 2k for each of your rear guards, so it's a really big grade 1, and this deck very heavily wants to early rush. They want to you know, swing out before their grade 3 and try and kill their opponent before either players are at grade 3. Ideally this deck wants to go second, I think like 99% of the time, so you can't get that first swing and just dump your hand on the board and swing turn card sideways. The cool thing is when you ride from your ride deck using this, you can Soul Blast 1 instead of discarding to ride. So we'll see this card show up in a lot of other decks in the future, namely Varga. I think we'll start running this as their ride line, because it's arguably a little bit better just having that 1 card hand advantage, even if they are playing Fallheart. So yeah, we are playing that in the ride deck. Our grade 2 is probably like the best card in our deck. I think this card is really, really strong, and it does what this deck wants to do really well. So the first effect is act once per turn if you have 4 more rear guards, so you have, you know, pretty much a full board. Reveal a card with Vyrgilla and its card name from your ride deck, this being your grade 3, because that'll be the last one you have. And it gets +1 crit until the end of the turn. So this is a crit 2 on your first grade 2 turn. If you go first, this will be your first attack, which is really good, but of course your aggro is going to be a little less, so that's why I say going second with this deck is first, turning all your cards sideways and then doing it again on your second turn, because you'll probably push your opponent to 2 or 3 damage on your first turn, and then this will try and push your opponent to that 5 damage, in which case hopefully you have enough early tempo that you can clear up the rest of the game. The second effect is when wrote upon, look at top 7 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 grade 2 card from among them, reveal, put it into your hand, shuffle your deck. If this is wrote upon by a grade 3 card or greater with Zorga in its name, look at all of your deck instead of top 7. So this just searches your deck for a grade 2, which is really cool. Typically you're going to be searching the order, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Your grade 3 is, in my opinion, the weakest link of this ride line. However, I think it does what it wants to do well. Like I said, typically your goal is to be killing your opponent, or getting, not killing your opponent, but getting very, very close to ending the game on your grade 2 turn, right? So typically you want to push for your first grade 3 ride to be that kill turn, and you want your grade 2 to sort of facilitate this game plan of, I'm going to push you to at least 4 damage, if not 5, and you are going to have no cards in hand, and then hopefully my grade 3 turn is enough to put you out of the game. I will say the weakest part of this deck is that the restanding skill doesn't give power, so your rear guards are going to have to do that on their own, and we'll go over that here in a second. So the first skill is Act, once per turn, Energy Blast 3. This would be a lot better if it was Energy Blast 2. I'll tell you that right now. The 3 scales really poorly. Of course, you're getting that 3 every turn, but we don't run the Energy Cyclers because we want to maximize hitting that 3. But it choose one of your opponent's rear guards, bind it, which is the best form of removal currently. There's no way to recur cards from bind zone outside of Liael. And then choose up to 1 grade 2 card from your drop, call it to rear. So it also recycles a grade 2 from your drop, which is super, super strong. The second skill is when this unit attacks, CB1, choose one of your grade 2 rears and stand it. So we'll talk about ways to buff our grade 2 rears, because typically your attack pattern is going to go like this. Whatever grade 2 I'm going to restand, I'm swinging with first, typically at the Vanguard, if it can hit. 10k won't hit. You want it to be at least 13. However, that's a really easy block. So typically you want it to be at least 18. Okay. Power numbers don't really work in that way to make them reach 18 if they're 10k grade 3. So you're typically gonna have to find a way to give at least 10k power in order to make that guard efficient. 15k power is even better because that's making it a 10k guard, which is really awkward numbers if they're not playing draws. Okay. So we'll talk about that more in a minute here. For our main deck, we are playing 3 more copies of our Persona Ride. We are only playing 8 grade 2s. The first one, I'm going to go over first. This is Brachioforce, Blast Artillery Dragon Brachioforce. This is just a really, really good card. Typically, the way to beat Rush is, let's say I go second, I swing out on you. My opponent has 2 choices. Their choices are to either guard or try and guard at least 2 of the attacks, which is not going to work if I hit an offensive trigger. Or typically they will take them and chance getting a defensive trigger, which will shut down the rest of the turn. Okay. With 50 cards-ish, probably like 40 still in deck by the time that happens, the odds of hitting that trigger are actually pretty low. And so typically if they don't hit that trigger, regardless what they're going to do is they're going to aggro you back most of the time because they realize, hey, I'm on the fence. I'm going to lose if I can't either push him to a game-ending state or if I can't clear their board, right? Brachioforce is the best of both worlds. When its attack hits, retire this unit, draw a card, choose one of your opponent's rears, retire it. So he removes himself. However, he also nets you another card, which is Filter, and he also removes a rear. This is right now the front row rear guards, I'd say, are less important than the back row. In the current state of the game, we have a lot of ways to remove the front row, but a lot of the stronger cards are sitting in the back row. Like Varga, I would say, is one of the best decks right now, for sure. And what it wants to do is, it doesn't care about its front row because they're going to be sacking themselves anyways. So they're going to be basically having a bunch of dudes in their back row set up for their Varga turn to net them cards later. Okay. So Brachioforce is actually sniping those and not letting them get value out of it, which is very, very good. Typically, who you're going to want to be swinging with at the Vanguard is going to be this guy, Stealth Dragon Hadanaresu. I hope I said that right. When it's placed on rear by your Vanguard's ability, this unit gets plus 10k. So this is actually a pretty good card to discard for riding, because if you just call it back with Vyrgilla, then you're going to get it plus 10k. So it's a 19k. It's smaller than 10, which does suck for like hitting rears. However, it's still bigger than 18, which means it's going to be more than a 5-card guard, which is relevant. The number's pretty bad. Honestly, like once we get the support, this deck's going to change a lot. But right now, Hadanaresu is one of the best rears in this deck. Next, we have 4 copies of Justina. This is the order searcher in this deck. Basically, you gotta search for an order, pitch it, and then put it in their drop. But when it's in your drop, you can use it and just put it back to the bottom, which is pretty cool. This deck does have a pretty heavy order focus, and I'll talk about that again in a minute. 3 copies of our PG. We have 4 copies of probably like the best rear guard in your deck, Static Rack Dragon. So some Vyrgillists run this. I think this is way better in this deck. So basically, when your other units placed on rearguard in the same column as this unit, during that turn, the place unit gets +5 until the end of the turn, allowing your grade 2s, if you have to play them from hand, Brachioforce can now hit Vanguard, and so can Hadarasu. And then if you place Hadarasu off of Vyrgilla, Hadarasu actually gets +15, making it a 24k, which is an 11k, meaning they have to guard with a 15. Like an 11k difference from a grade 3, which is really, really cool. Next, we have Mid-Hot. Mid-Hot right now is very popular in Varga. However, it actually works in this deck as well, because it's just when your unit restands by a card's ability, you get a retire, draw a card. Meaning Mid-Hot actually procs as well off of your Vyrgilla. So, pretty cool. Gets you more draw. Next, we have Chihazard. This was a card from like set 1 that was played back in the day. When it boosts, it gets plus 2k. It's a 10k booster. It helps with numbers, but other than that, it doesn't really do much. I won't lie to you. We just don't have a lot of great support in this deck. So this was sort of the best generic thing we could do in order to help boost our numbers and get around those damage triggers. Next, we're playing Drag Veda for over trigger. You can play blue, red, generic even. Honestly, the 200 million in this deck's also kind of goated, because like if you check that, not only is your Vanguard going to break through a shield that's not a PG, but it's also going to give your rear that you restand that 100 million. So honestly, that OT in this deck I think is still pretty strong. However, I do not believe it's a once per turn to restand. It is not. So if you get Drag Veda, you can restand. You can restand your Vanguard, swing with it, and then restand Vyrgilla, swing again on Vyrgilla to restand the rear guard again, which is pretty cool. Next, we're playing Burning Flail Dragon. Just the effect crit. You don't have to play effect crits. I always do, just because I like to be as optimal as possible. You really don't even have any Soul Blast in this deck outside of the one in the ride line. So you don't really need that, and the 2k is not super relevant. It does kind of matter a little bit with Hanaderesu if you're swinging at like if you need him to swing over like a 10k body, but not really relevant. Next, we're playing Draws Flare Veil Dragon. We need our deck's like pseudo piece reliant. We need to see as many cards as we can. Flare Veil Dragon is going to help us do that. Fronts are a little bit more defensive, and fronts do sort of help you boost that whole front row. So there's an argument to actually put fronts in this deck. And I almost feel like you might cut crits and just run like actual like rainbow triggers, like 4 crit, 3 draw, and 4 fronts, the effect fronts. But we're not doing that in this build right now. I'm just playing because I am trying to be early aggro. We are playing Sunen Gorosu for our crit. Honestly, this might be a wild take, but I think if you're really trying to make this deck work, there's an argument to run 8 front 3 draw or 8 front 3 crit, or even, I don't know, is there 11 fronts in Dragon Empire? Because fronts, if you win every single dice roll, fronts are going to do you way more on that early aggression than a critical trigger, right? Because if you are playing fronts and let's say you swing, they hit a damage trigger on a damage, like a defensive trigger, right? The rest on your first swing, the rest of your turn's probably not going to hit. However, if you hit a front trigger, your front row will now hit again, which is pretty cool. So I think there's a lot of testing to be done with this deck. I do think Drag Veda is the better over trigger, because restanding your grade 2 or restanding your Vanguard is just really good in this deck. But I do think there's a valid build where you play 11 fronts. And then, of course, 4 heals. And then we do have the 1 Elementaria for our 4th PG. You don't need to run it. I do, because, again, I do think it's optimal. You probably run... It doesn't really matter which Elementaria you run in this deck, because we are getting that new one. We don't have a Regalis piece, mainly because we already want to play an order per turn. And we typically want to be using our grade 2 order. If you want to run a Regalis piece, you can run the Grail, or you can run Bracing Angel Ladder. Doesn't really matter. I don't think this deck needs a Regalis piece. And in fact, I don't play one because I already feel like you just want to swing. You just want to punch. And this order does that a little better. So we have Stardust Blade. It's CB1. If you Vanguard with Vyrgilla in its name, which you will, check top 5, choose up to 1 unit with a grade less than equal to your Vanguard, call it to rear. And then choose one of your Vanguards, and it gets the following 2 effects, okay? When your rear guard is retired by your opponent's... when your rear guard is retired... by your opponent's card ability, search your deck for up to 1 normal unit, call it to rear guard, shuffle your deck. And this unit gets plus 3k for each normal unit on your rear guard and in your drop zone until the end of the turn. So this is a normal order. Yeah. And it is when your rear guard is retired by your opponent's card ability, which, I mean, like, if they can retire it on your turn, sure, but I don't think it's really going to do that much. But the big part is the power. The power is very important. So that was Vyrgilla. Here's the deck code. I will have the deck code in the description down below. I will also have timestamps to each of these decks. So the next deck we're going to be looking at today is Faded 1 of 0 Blangdmire. This is actually my favorite deck in the set, and honestly, one of my favorite Divines decks in general. I love Deleters in Premium. It was one of my first decks. And this says example list because like I've tested the most with Blangdmire out of all these decks, and I don't know if this list I would say is optimal. I'll probably be posting another Blangdmire list frequently with whatever changes I make or find. But right now, I think this is what every Blangdmire list should have, these cards in them. The ratios can vary depending on what you want to do with it, but this deck's super flexible and you can run a lot of these cards different ways. So for our ride line, we do have Cavity Maligia. Just our new starter. You can run any starter, doesn't matter. Hollow Raptor, when it's rode upon by the grade 2s, reveal top 3 cards of your deck, put one grade 1 or grade, put all grade 1 or graders into the soul, put the rest on the bottom. If you put 2 or more, draw a card. Awesome filter and soul filtration. Super good card. The ride line's really good. And then we're playing Vacant Fang. This is the grade 2. When rode upon by Blangdmire, check top 3, put all grade 1 or graders in the soul, shuffle your deck. If you put 2 or more cards, draw a card. Same effect. Really good here. Then we have Faded 1 of 0 Blangdmire. Blangdmire gets a lot of hate, I've noticed, especially here in like with the Western audience of the game. In Japan, the deck actually is performing very well. I believe in the last 3 months, it's been like a top 8 deck in VG Paradox. I will double check that, but I'm pretty sure it's been up there quite a bit. And Blangdmire is really cool because it's actually super free. This deck, there's not many costs you need to pay, meaning you can functionally play this deck while being at like 1 or 2 damage the entire game, which is how I love to play Vanguard. Playing Vanguard super sparingly on the damage means you're gonna die less, and Blangdmire doesn't like dying. So when this unit attacks, bind 2 or more up to a total of 4 from your soul face down. You may draw a card. If you bound 4 or more cards, your opponent chooses 2 of their rears, binding them face down. This unit gains 5k until the end of the battle for every 2 face down cards in your bind zone. You're going to use this effect a lot. This effect is how your Blangdmire is going to be really big. The first turn, you'll only get like a 10k buff, which whatever. But as the game progressively scales, your Blangdmire is going to be super big. It's going to be like PG or nothing. And that's when you use your Divine skill. Blangdmire's Divine skill is very unique. It reminds me a lot of Rezael's. Most of the Divine decks have to use their Divine skill at a certain moment in the game. I think with the exception being Liael, the rest of them all want a Divine skill at like a certain time, right? Varga is going to Divine skill probably as soon as you hit 4 damage and they have their rears to swing for game. Welstra is going to do it on their first grade 3 turn. Zorga will probably also do it on their first or second grade 3 turn. Still testing with Zorga, so I'm not sure. But it feels like a deck that wants the Divine skill early. Same with Liael, right? Blangdmire doesn't necessarily want to do that. It wants to do it when it feels like, whenever, it's very up to the player. So its Divine skill is at the beginning of your guard step of the battle. This unit attacked. If your bind zone has 8 or more face down cards, you may have this unit gain crit +1 until the end of the turn. If you do, your opponent cannot call or play Sentinels from hand until the end of your turn. Choose one of your opponent's Vanguards until the end of your opponent's turn. All of your opponent's and that unit's abilities are nullified. If they reride, of course, it does get rid of this. However, the big part is that Sentinels are turned off, okay? And the reason this is big is because you have to have 8 or more anyways, which is already going to be a plus 20k to his power, making him a 33. With a booster, assuming it's Evoke Alchemist, that'll be 46, potentially 48, with 2 crit, right? And they can't PG it. However, 48 in the modern game isn't that big of a number. Sure, you're doing a lot of filtration, so you're going to have a lot of triggers still in your deck at this point, but it's not that big of a number. So typically, you might actually not want to Divine Skill on your first turn. It's a very counteractive deck as well. So like if my opponent is playing Varga, I probably will Divine Skill if I know they're going to... Like I said, a lot of these Divine decks are very predictable when they're going to use their Divine Skill. So Blangdmire knows when it wants to shut off that ability, right? And say, okay, you have to ride now if you want to get your Divine Skill, so good luck. Welstra, I think is... Not Welstra, sorry. Raza, I think, is the hardest matchup for this deck because, like I said, it can sort of Divine Skill when it wants, unless it's put into a position where it has to Divine Skill, which most Razael players, I feel like, won't ever want to get to that position. They'll want to use their Divine Skill whenever they feel like it's a good time to use it, and not necessarily, okay, I've been backed into a corner, I have to use my Divine Skill. right? So Blangdmire, super, super flexible. Love this card. Great card. So we're playing 3 more copies of Blangdmire. We're playing 4 copies of the single Shatter Colossus. It just gets big. It also binds itself face down when it goes to the soul by your card's ability, including its own. If you have a grade 3 or greater Blangdmire's name, you get to bind it face down to draw a card, which is really cool. Zamug is really cool. It filters with its first effect when placed on rear, but then also when it attacks, if you have a grade 3 or greater Blangdmire's name, and its crit is 1 or less, so like you have to not put a crit on it, you can EB3 to gain 5k in a crit, which is pretty cool. It is until the end of that battle, so if it like restands off of Evoke Alchemist, you won't be able to stack crits onto it still and keep that, which is pretty fair. But this is only a 4 attack deck, so I feel like that's a little extra, right? Like that crit is 1 or less thing, because like if you could restand it off of Evoke Alchemist, the 4 attacks would be at least like really threatening. Then we are playing Falkratias. Last effect doesn't matter because we don't have a grade 4 or greater Vanguard, but when it attacks, you can put a Dark States card from your drop to soul to help not only filter your soul for your Blangdmire cost, but also gain 5k for each grade of that card, which allows it to hit good numbers, and then you can restand this card off of Evoke Alchemist, because I do believe those numbers are until the end of the turn. Let me double check. Yeah, until the end of the turn, and you can do it again because it's not a once per turn to make it even bigger, which is very cool, especially on the turn you Divine skill, because your Blangdmire will be big and so will your Falkratias. For Tizkar, I really do feel like this is probably the most cuttable card in the deck. It competes with Zamug for the same Energy Blast cost, and because Falkratia can put your cards from drop back into your soul, it doesn't really like matter pitching. However, sometimes you don't want to pitch your cards. Like I would never want to pitch a Zamug or a Strike Colossus or a Falkratia. So Tizkar is like cool in the sense that I can just like pitch it and draw a card, which is nice, I guess. For Evoke Alchemist, honestly the best card in the deck. So if it boosts a Blangdmire, it gets plus 5k. Or sorry, when it boosts, if you have a Blangdmire, it gets 5k. So it's always a 13k booster. However, if it boosts a Blangdmire, it gets plus 10k. And then also if your bind zone has 4 or more face down, you can CB1 to choose when your rear stand it. And then if your bind zone has 8 or more, it also gains 15k, which is really cool. Next, we're playing 3 copies of like the worst card in the deck, Arwim. There's really not a whole lot you can sub this out for. I definitely think this is where the majority of like the testing is going to come in and like see what like you want to replace for this card. Basically, it soul charges 1. If you have a Blangdmire, you could selectively soul charge 2, which is cool. And if it's on the back row and you've Divine skilled, you can retire it, draw a card, and then if you haven't used this skill already, your opponent's Vanguard gets at the beginning of the ride phase. When you choose a card to discard, you have to discard a card to ride or stride pretty much, which is cool, but like it's not great. There's a lot your opponent can do to like mitigate that, right? Like if your opponent has the Gun Cycler and they pitch that, they actually get to Energy Blast 3 because it is pitched during the ride phase, allowing for or like not from the ride phase, but like basically you can pitch a card to ride. It's sort of like Oxes from the day, like OG Oxes, but like a lot worse. So yeah, 3 PG, 1 Dark States OT. You can play red or blue here. I prefer Dark States because just the way I typically play, Dark States OT feels like an OT that blue and red both feel pretty bad in my opinion if you check them on grade 1 or grade 2. And oftentimes I feel like your over trigger is such a win button that you want it to do as much as possible whenever you check it because it's a random win button. And the Dark States one I feel like is one of the best in the game at doing that because it's giving you a constant 10k and a crit forever. The 100 mil is a lot less important in this card other than it's always giving you a critical trigger as well as a draw, which is pretty good. So that might be cope. I'm sure there's players out there better than me who will tell me blue or red is better. But I do agree blue is a better OT most of the time. I just think in this deck, in Dark States, most Dark States deck, this OT is doing more in more situations. 4 effect crit, doesn't matter, it's just a crit. 3 draw trigger, the effect one. The 10k guard's kind of relevant in the current format. And then also, I just think draws are pretty good. In this deck, you don't really need fronts because everything gets so big anyways. So the draw, I think, is just better here. I just have the Bang Dream crits in because it's just representing you can play any crit, and I like the Bang Dream crits. We have 4 Gambling Juggler. She's just the baddest one in Dark States. So 4 of her. 1 Grail. You can play Bracing Angel. You can play any Regalis piece. You don't even have to play a Regalis piece in this deck. I just think they're why not, really. So Bracing Grhyaundra is my choice here. This card's really cool. Cage of Furious Star. You soul charge 1, choose a grade 3 or less card from your soul. Call it to rear, gets plus 5k until the end of the turn. Basically, it allows you to choose a card from your soul and like say I accidentally like soul charged all my Zamoogs or like all of my Colossus, I can like get these guys back, or Falcratio, which is really cool. And then of course our 1 Elementaria. Just like I said, I'll be dropping more Blangdmire lists later. The deck code is right here. I will have that in the description as well as a timestamp to this point as well. Next up, we have Flamme. So Flamme is the new lyrical archetype. As a lot of people will probably attest, I don't know a whole lot about lyrical Monasteria. However, this deck actually interests me, and this is one that I will probably build. So for our ride line, we have Blue Grhyaundra. Remember this name because this is an important card. Just standard grade 1, but remember Blue Grhyaundra, okay? And then we have Jana, okay? When it's rode upon by the grade 2, choose a Blue Grhyaundra from your soul, call it to rearguard until the end of the turn, and then put that card into the soul. And this card. So you call the grade 1 and this card, and then they go back to soul at the end of the turn. At the end of the battle, if you attacked, if your Vanguard is the grade 0, retire this unit, countercharge 1. And you're probably like, how do we get that? I'll explain that. Then we're playing Verte, the grade 2. When rode upon by the grade 3, if you have a Blue Grhyaundra, if your soul has the grade 0, Blue Grhyaundra, draw 2, choose a card from your hand, put it to the bottom of your deck. At the end of the battle, this unit attacked. If your Vanguard is Blue Grhyaundra, Soul Blast 1, retire this unit, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, retire it. Nice little 1-for-1 there. And then our grade 3 is Rogia. So Rogia is Soul Blast 1, search your deck or soul for up to 1 grade 2 or less card with Flamme Glam and its card name. Call it to rear, and if you search your deck, shuffle the deck. It has the Vanguard skill. At the end of the battle, this unit attacked. If you have 3 or more units with Flamme Glam and their different card names, Counterblast 1, choose a Flamme Glam Blue Grhyaundra from your soul, ride it as stand. Until the end of the turn, that unit loses all of its auto abilities, and this unit gets plus 2k for every card in total in your and your opponent's damage zone. At the end of the turn, choose a Rogia from your soul or drop, write it as rest. Okay, so basically it rewrites the grade 1 or the grade 0. The grade 0 gets big, and then at the end of the turn it goes back to the grade 1 or the grade 3, sorry. So it's a really cool way of multi-attacking. So we play 3 more of that in our main deck. 4 Frankette. This is the Chris Reigns support. However, it also just is a pretty good card. When it attacks, if you have 3 or more units with different card names, it gains 5k. And then if you have 4 more units with different card names, at the end of the battle, choose one of your rear guards and bounce it to hand. That's the effect that matters in this deck. 4 Amdushia. When placed on rear, look at top 3 cards of your deck. Choose up to 1 Flamme Glam and its card name. From among them, reveal, put it in your hand, put the rest on the bottom. Unfortunately, there's not a Flamme Glam PG. And then if your Vanguard has Flamme Glam in its name, this unit gains a boost. So it's a 10k booster. Pretty nice. We have 3 copies of Fly Up My Heart Person. When it's placed on Guardian, you get to put a card of Flamme Glam and its name from your drop to the bottom of the deck, and it becomes a 15k guard. Really cool defensive card here for the deck. 3 more of the Ride deck grade 2. Again, just allows you to snipe cards. 4 Guncycler. 4 copies of Dive to Blue Licorice. So when your Vanguard, when your Vanguard with Flamme Glam and its card name attacks CB1, put a unit with Flamme Glam and its card name at the bottom of your deck, at the bottom of the deck from the drop. Draw a card, and you get all of your units with Flamme Glam and their card name get plus 5k. Nice little buff there. 3 more of the grade 1 that countercharges. 3 PGs, and then we do play 1 copy of another Blue Grhyaundra. And let me tell you why. Prison is a deck. Prison is a deck that exists, okay? And off the top of my head, it's the only one that can rip from soul. However, in the Prison matchup, there's a non-zero chance that your Blue Grhyaundra gets ripped from your soul, and then you just can't play the game, okay? So we play 1 more copy in order to like get it into filtration. So that way, if we are playing against a matchup that can rip from soul, right now I think it's just prison, but if there's any more, you have one more copy to get back into rotation to still be able to play the game. One lyrical OT, you know, all your, you get during, so like the player gets during your turn, all your rear guards get plus 10,000 until the end of the fight. Again, like the Dark States one, it does, and until the end of the fight effect, which I think is pretty good. However, I just, I don't know. I don't know a lot about lyrical. This deck I think is probably better with the blue OT, but I just put this in here just because like it seemed good. I am on 3 fronts. I think fronts is better in this deck because numbers go up is good, and it's a 20k shield, which is nice. 4 effect triggers, effect crits, 4 regular crit, 4 regular heal, 1 Grhyaundra, right, for our Regalis piece. Persona writing actually seems pretty good in this deck, so. Maximizing that is good, and then 1 Elementaria. So again, there's the deck code. I will also have in the description down below as well as a timestamp. Let's check out the next list. So next up is Faded One of Taboo, Zorga Nadir. Okay, so we have our grade 0. We have our grade 1. This is the old grade 1. I still like this one better. A Ranker Chain. You Soul Blast 1, draw 2, choose one of your up to 1 order card from your drop zone. From your hand, discard it. If you did not discard, you have to pitch 2 instead. And then we do play the new grade 2. You can play the new or the old one. I like the new one a little more. But basically, when it's rode upon by Zorga with Divine Skill, choose up to 1 normal order from your drop, put it into your hand. The other one basically does the same thing. I just think the other one has a cost attached to it, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Or maybe it bounces any card back. I think it's just an order, though. But yeah, Preordained. Split the Preordained. Okay, and then we have Zorga Nadir. So it has the continuous Vanguard skill. When you play normal order, you can Alchemagic. Then it has Act once per turn. Energy Blast 2, bind a normal order from your drop. Choose up to 2 cards from your drop, call them to rear. They get plus 5k until the end of the turn for each normal order with a different card name in your bind zone. And at the end of the turn, retire them. So it gets big and, you know, calls cards. Its Divine skills, when this unit attacks a grade 3 or greater, Soul Blast 1, choose a column and stand all rear guards in that column at the end of the battle, retire them. Or at the end of that turn, retire them. So it multi-attacks. And it Alchemagics. Of course, the big thing with Zorga is that Alchemagic, using those orders to either buff your Vanguard or buff your rears, but basically just allowing you to get in for those swings. But yeah, it is 4 attacks, so that's good. 3 copies in the main. 4 of the new grade 2. I've heard someone on my locals, a pretty good player, talk about how they don't think this card's good. And I kind of agree. I think this card is like sort of okay. It's in this list. I don't play Zorga. I've literally never played Zorga. I've read the cards and I built this list of like what I think is going to be good, as well as looking at some topping lists in Japan. And they played this, but I think there's probably better options you can play. So when this is placed on rearguard, Energy Blast 2, bind a normal order from a drop, gets us 5k for each, until end of turn for each normal order with a different name in your bind zone. So it gets big. That's cool. And drop at the beginning of your battle phase if you have a Vanguard with a Zorga in its name and Divine skill. And you did Alchemagic this turn, you may call this card to rearguard. If you called this card and your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, it gets crit plus 1. So it's cool that it gets a crit and it can call itself not off of Zorga's skill. Meaning, like, if you use Zorga's skill, you don't have to call this, and then this will call itself anyways. And it is at the beginning of your battle phase. So you can actually, like, if you have 2 in drop, you can, like, Zorga, call 2 grade 1s behind it, typically Philander, and then call him, and then you have like 2 big columns because Philander, and then this will have like crits, and then you can restand it, which is cool. But I still think there's better options probably. 4 copies of probably the best Alchemagic grade 2 Shadow Cloak. When it's placed on rearguard from hand, search your deck for up to 1 order card, reveal it, and if your drop does not have a card of the same name, discard the revealed card. You know, allowing you to Alchemagic. And then when you play an order, Soul Blast 1, this unit gets plus 5k until the end of the turn. If it was Alchemagic, choose one of your other rear guards, return it to the hand. So something cool you can do with this is, like with Zorga, you can choose the 2 cards from your drop to call. You can choose like 2 PGs, and then like you can like drop 2 of these from hand, bounce your PGs to hand that you called off Zorga. And like it's sort of weird because, you know, you're losing out on that power, but you can do that. We have 4 copies of, 3 copies. Sorry, I missed a card. We have 4 PGs. So this is actually important. Typically it's 3 PGs, 1 Elementaria. I am playing 4 PGs. Again, I think that combo line, since this is not the Divine skill that calls back, to recycle those PGs and then call the Shadow Cloaks and get those PGs back is really, really strong. I also think that this deck being heavily order focused, and we do play some blitz orders, I don't think we want to clog our blitz order line with Elementaria. So I think there's a very real reason you want to run 4 PGs in this deck. 3 of like the best card in the deck, I think, Conceited Noble Philander. So when placed on rear from hand, check top 5, choose 1 card, discard it, shuffle the deck, and then during your turn, if your drop has 10 or more cards, this unit gets plus 10k. So it's an 18k booster or 18k swinger, which is just like really good. So like this is typically what you're gonna be wanting to call, like the 2 cards off the rear is gonna be this and like 2 copies of these. And then they'll get 5, so they'll be 23s, and then you call these guys who are going to be at base 10k with a crit if you use their second effect bigger, so really damn big columns of crits. 1 copy, I saw this in like 1 or 2 lists in JP and I really liked it. I had never considered this card before, but I do think this card is cool. Adhesive Threat Mutant Actisticky. Counterblast 1, retire 2 other rears, draw a card, this one gets plus 5. It's just a nice little retire engine as well as a draw engine. So you can like call this. You can like have this behind your Vanguard and then like retire the Shadow Cloak after you've resolved it and then like get these guys back, which is cool, you know? 2 copies of Rogue Headhunter. You probably don't need this, but you can. Basically, if you played an order, it gets plus 5k. When it's placed on rear, the next time you hit Alchemagic and play it this turn, you can reduce the cost by 1 or 1 CB. So basically, whatever you Alchemagic costs 1 CB less, which is cool. Then we have Bless Favor. I just think Bless Favor is a broken OT. I genuinely don't think you actually play blue OT in this deck. Maybe red OT. There's an argument for it, but I think Bless Favor is just so busted. It is so much. I think this one is really the only ones I don't like oftentimes are the Dragon Empire, the Kettler, and like probably the Brant OTs. I think Dark States and Stoichea's OTs are so strong that you probably just play those ones. For our trigger lineup, we are on 3 front. We don't need draws in this deck, and the defensive's bigger. 4 effect triggers. We don't really need Soul Blast, but effects is just being optimal. 4 vanilla crits, and then 4 vanilla heals. For our order package, we have 1 copy of Fill the Skies, O Brand of Corpses. Play this card if you have a Vanguard or Zorga in its name and Divine skill. Choose one of your Vanguards. It gets the effect that all of your rear guards placed from the drop get plus 5k. Cool. We're playing Bracing Angel Ladder. You should know what Bracing Angel Ladder does, but if you don't, during your turn, all of your Vanguards get plus 5k, and all of your rear guards cannot be chosen and cannot, draw a card, put this card in your soul until the end of your opponent's next turn. Your Vanguard gets plus 5. All your rears can't be chosen and cannot be put anywhere other than rear guard by your opponent's card effects. 2 Clouded Miasma. CB1, choose a grade 3 or less card from your drop, call it to rear. If this is part of Alchemagic, choose one of your Vanguard to get plus, it gets all of your front row gets plus 5k until the end of the turn. Pretty good card. 1 Death Inviting Black Magic. CB4, but it's reduced by 1 for each card in your bind zone. Draw 2. Just Pot of Greed, but typically it won't cost that much. 1 Gather Upon Me, You Wandering Souls. I'm sure you guys know this card from, what is it? Moosh King. Discard an order card. Choose one of your Vanguard to get drive plus 1. 2 Mythiarch Habitat, just a pretty good card. If you're going first, you can check top 7, or like if you're on grade 1, this gives you a little bit of aggro because you can check top 7, choose up to 1 card with grade less than or equal to your Vanguard, call it to rear. Deck, when you would search or choose a unit card from your deck, you may choose this card instead. Cool way to filter. And then when this card would be called from deck to rear guard, put it into the hand instead of the drop zone. So it allows you to just like get it. 2 Sweets That Become an Evil Dream. CB1, draw a card, look at the top card of your deck, put it at the top of your deck or discard it. So just a nice way to either put triggers on top or do something else. Then we have Overcoming the Unnatural Death. CB1, bind this card, choose up to 2 orders from your drop and put them into your hand. Cool way to recycle orders. We are playing one copy of the Villano order. Energy Blast 2, choose one of your units being attacked, gains plus 20k until the end of the battle, and you can play another Blitz order this turn. So you could run Elementaria, but again, I think that Bracing Angel, I mean, it's not a Regalis piece, but Bracing Angel is basically doing the job, and then of course recycling the PGs I think is just better. The other Blitz order we're playing is Fine Drink of Abolishment for the Sins. Soul Blast 1, draw a card, choose one of your units, gets plus 5k until the end of the battle for each order with a different card name in your drop and bind zone in total. This is typically what you're going to want to play for that second guard off of the Villano order card. So that is Zorga. Again, I will have the deck code down in the description as well as the timestamp. Let's move on to the next deck. Okay, so the next deck is what I believe to honestly be probably the worst deck in the set, and I feel really bad saying that because I hate saying decks are bad or like you shouldn't play them. But I genuinely feel like out of the 2 Dragon Empire like new decks in this set, this would not be the one I would play. I would probably play Vyrgilla over this. So this is Drag Connector Grhyaundra. Okay, so it's like a cool fusion deck. Basically the premise is like this tamer fuses with like his pet dragon, which is pretty cool. So you have the grade 0, doesn't matter that you play that one. And then if your soul has Child Dragondra, when you would ride Unison Dragondra from the ride deck, you can ride without discarding a card, and this card has the rearguard effect at the beginning of your battle phase. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with gear in its name, rest this card, choose one of your rearguards with Andra in its name until the end of the battle. It can attack from the back row and gets plus 10k. So it is a 4-attack deck. It's a little weird. Then we have one copy in the ride deck. We have Unison Dragondra. Basically, if your soul has the grade 1 in it, you can ride the grade 3 without discarding. Then it has on rearguard during your turn, if you have a grade 3 with gear in its name, this unit gets plus 5k, so it's a 15k, which is cool. Next, we have our grade 3 Drag Connector Grhyaundra. So at the beginning of your main phase, rest this unit, choose up to 1 grade 2 or less card with gear in its card name, and up to 1 grade 2 or less card with Andra in its card name from each your soul, call them to rearguard, and this unit gets at the beginning of your battle phase, at the beginning of your battle with Andra in its card name attacked, put that unit that attacked and a rearguard with gear in its card name into soul, stand this unit, all your front row gets 10k until the end of the turn. So it's sort of like a pseudo persona ride by like swinging with your gear and your Andra in the back row. But I still don't love it. It's cool. It's a cool concept, but I think this is one of those decks that will either get a busted promo and probably be like really crazy, or it will never get support again and fall off the face of the earth. I hope I'm wrong though, because I do think the artwork in this deck is super cool. I don't think this is a good deck. So 3 more copies of the Persona Ride, 4 copies of Artillery Bullet of Dust Zaxxas. He basically gets big, draws you cards, and then that's pretty much it. 4 copies of this Golem. When it's placed on rearguard, if you have a grade 3 or greater with gear in its name, Energy Blast 3 and draw a card. That's cool. And then when your unit with gear Andra and its name attacks, it gets plus 5k until the end of the turn. So again, gets big. 4 Fallheart, Guncycler. 3 Brachioforce. I think Brachioforce is just like the generic glue of Dragon Empire decks. Like if you're missing a card that you want to put into your deck, put in Brachioforce. So yeah, does this up to 1? Okay, so one thing I will say, I'm not running any more of the grade 2s. There's an argument to probably put in 1 more copy, like the Blue Craya we played in what was it called? Flamme, in case you're up against a prison matchup and you need to put those into soul, and you just can't, like if you lose it. So you might want to find room for like 1 more to just slot it in somewhere. I didn't because I just threw this deck together. We play 3 more of the grade 1. It's cool because you can rest it and then choose one of your rears with Andra in its name, and it gets plus 10k and can attack from the back row. So we talked about that. Basically the same thought, right, is like if they get rid of this, you can. However, actually, I was gonna say, because this has Andra in its name, so you can like, because this one doesn't specify a grade 2. Actually, now I'm starting to cook for a second. Yeah, this doesn't specify it has to be a grade 2. So like this can attack from the back row and get 10k if like off this guy. However, actually that makes this a 5 attack deck. Chat, wait, this actually might be better than I thought. because this can... No, you would still need 2 of them because they can't inherently attack from the back row. Never mind, this is still a 4 attack deck because you would need 2. You need like a column that are like 2 of these guys. And then like these 2 in the back row. And then something else in the front row. And then at the start of the battle phase. Or after they swing, it would suck up like 2 of them. And you'd still be down 1 attack. So it actually doesn't do anything at all. Never mind. It's still a 4 attack deck. I thought I cooked for a second, like mid-video, but no. Rendicate Griffin. So basically, if it attacks or boosts, if you have Vanguard or Grhyaundra, it gets plus 2k, it's a 10k booster. And then you get a snipe a grade 1 or less back row rear guard, which is cool. Like I said, I think back row rear guards are stronger in the current format. 3 PGs because we're playing the Elementaria. 1 Drag Veda, just to make us a 5 attack deck, I guess. You could play Valnut, because that would also make it a 5 attack deck. So red or Dragon Empire is better here. 4 effect crit, 3 draw effects, 4 regular crit, 4 heal. 4 of this order card. I don't know like how good this actually is. It is for the deck, but I don't know if it's like actually good or not. Again, I didn't test this deck, so basically choose one of your Vanguards. It gets when this unit stands, all your front row gets 10k until the end of the turn. Basically buffing your front row by 20k. If you're on a Persona ride, 30k, which is cool, and it costs nothing. So like I like it, I guess. We're playing Grail for our order. Again, the name of this deck is just going to be making your front row real big. And then our 1 Elementaria. So yeah, sorry I thought I cooked there for a second, but I didn't. This is still a 4 attack deck that just gets really big, and that's all it does. But it's a cool way of doing it, and I do like that, especially with Divines. I feel like they've been sort of taking the game design differently. So I like the way they took this deck. I just wish it was better. The problem with this deck is it will either never be better or it will get 1 promo card that someday makes it super ridiculous. One of those 2 things will happen, but we'll see. On to the next deck, though. Okay, so the second to last deck we're going to be looking at today is Glanzel Rotovisor. So Rotovisor, I think out of every single deck that is in this set, has the most potential to become broken. And this may be copium because I just really like the Nova Grappler aesthetic and playstyle, but I genuinely think Villano and Direful Dolls in set 1 were like these slept on decks because they didn't have divine skills, and like at least within the current meta, which right now we're on divine set 1, Direful Dolls and Villano I think are 2 very powerful decks, and they haven't even got their second wave of support legal until this weekend. So we'll see how they do with their second wave of support. I think Villano for sure gets better. Direful Doll is kind of weird. I think the grade 2 is good. The grade 1's like maybe, but we'll see. Rotovisor to me is 1 card away from being the most broken deck imaginable, right? And it's either cards that restand themselves, so like you can swing them before Rotovisor, restand, swing again, or just like another arena. One of those 2 things, if we ever get them soon, will make this deck very good. So our grade 0 is just Rotovisor, just default grade 0. Our grade 1, when it's rode upon by a grade 2 with Rotovisor, search your deck for up to 1 arena. And then it has a second effect. This is important because we do play more of this in the main. When your other unit of the same column as this unit stands, by your card's ability, this unit gets plus 5k until the end of the turn. Until the end of the turn. This card would have been broken if it restood itself when something in front of it restood, even if it didn't get the 8k. I think the 5k. I think that could be something this deck could get that could make it stronger as well. There's a lot of avenues to make this deck more broken. When this is rode upon by the grade 2, when it's rode upon by a Rotovisor, you look at top 7, either add a grade 3 of the Rotovisor or 1 arena, put it to your hand, shuffle your deck. And if you ended up not revealing a card, you can call this card to rear guard, but hopefully you will always reveal a card. When this unit attacks, if you have a grade 3 or greater Rotovisor in its name, this unit gets plus 5k. Not great, especially not on the grade 2, but yeah, not great on the grade 2 there. The big effect is the searching. Okay, so Glanzel Rotovisor. Let me settle in here because I think this card reads broken. It's either going to be good off rip, or which I haven't tested this deck yet. Japan tells me no because it has like no tops according to VG Paradox, but like it feels so good. So during your turn, if your Orison has 3 or more arenas, all your front row gets plus 5. So it's a 5k boost to your front row if you have 3 or more arenas. That probably won't happen, especially on your first grade 3 turn. Typically, you will have 2 on your first grade 3 turn. So it's cool that it gives you a buff when you do eventually get to that second grade 3, especially because if you do get to that second grade 3 and you get the second arena, you're basically getting a 15k off the Persona ride as well. The important part is the second effect. Once per turn, at the end of the battle, this unit attacked CB2, draw a card, choose the same number of your rear guards as the number of arenas in your order zone, and stand them. If you chose 3 or more, all your chosen rear guards get plus 10k. So again, that scales good later into the game. However, note this is a 5 attack deck on your first grade 3 turn. So if you go first, that means on your first grade 3 turn, you're gonna have a very, very strong turn, okay? Mainly because you're getting at least one order off of your grade 1. On your grade 2, you're going to try and get the second order. If not, we have ways we'll talk about to get that second order before your grade 3 turn. Meaning on your first grade 2 turn, you should, on your first grade 3 turn, you should have 2 orders, if not more, in your order zone. Actually, no, it will be 2 because the orders are grade 2, so you can't play it on grade 1. But yeah, you'll have 2, which means you're standing 2 rear guards. Let's look at some of the other cards. 3 more copies of Rotovisor, 4 copies of like one of our main grade 2 attackers. That is Compassionate Mechanic. During your turn, if your order zone has 2 or more arenas, it gains 5k. So it's already a 15k, which means your opponent not hitting a defensive trigger, it will hit grade 3 Vanguards. And it will be a 10k guard on grade 2 Vanguards. Again, like I said, this is a first turn 5 attack deck, meaning if your opponent is on grade 2 still, I believe they don't have to be on grade 3. Yeah, they do not have to be on grade 3. Meaning if your opponent's on grade 2 still, this card's a 2-card guard, which is very nice. At the end of the battle, this unit attacked. If your Vanguard is a grade 3 or greater and your arena has an arena in your order zone was rested this battle phase, which we'll get to as well, draw a card, choose one of your other units, and it gets plus 5k. This allows your other grade 2s to also hit 15 if you do not have a Compassionate Mechanic, or you can boost the rear guard behind this, and so that way it will be a bigger boost when this card restands, which is very cool. Next, we have 4 copies of the Guncycler. We needed something else in here, and Filtration is the name of the game because you want to see 2 orders as soon as possible. So having this to draw that extra card in the right phase is good. And then 4 copies of Combine Rusher. The second effect will probably never come up in this deck. The second effect is when your set order you played from your hand is put into the order zone. Drop zone. When the set order you played from your hand is put into the order zone, counterblast 1, call this card to rear guard. So if you do like pitch these, like if you have to pitch a card during ride phase and you don't have the Guncycler, Combine Rusher is good to pitch because you can call it off of just playing the order, which is cool. However, it does take a CB, and as you saw, our Vanguard is CB2. This deck does have good countercharge though, so we'll get into that. But then also, when this unit attacks a grade 3 or greater unit, if your order zone has 2 or more set orders, this unit gets plus 10k. So he's a 10k plus 5k because he has to swing at a grade 3. So assuming this is your second grade 3 turn now, he's a 25k for no reason. Like, that's so good. Of course, Combine Rusher is expensive, so, you know, hopefully you have your copies. Next, we have 4 of like the best Order Searcher in Brandgate now. Like, this card is so good. So basically, Great Sickle of White Flash says, during the battle, this unit boosted. If your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater and your order zone has 2 or more set orders, again, 2, everything just wants 2 except for your Vanguard who wants 3 for extra effects. The 5 attacks is happening though. It gains 5k, which is nice. At the end of the battle, this unit boosted. If your order zone has a set order, put this unit into your soul. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Choose up to 1 grade 2 unit card from among them. Put it into your hand. Shuffle your deck. So basically, on your grade 2 turn, if like somehow you haven't seen your order yet, right? Like say you didn't see your order off of this guy, or like you're scared to see your order off of this guy, you can swing, boost with this. You'll have at least 1 in there, right? Because it only needs 1 for that effect. Yeah. Because you guarantee you got 1 off of him. You can put it to soul to search for that second one, guaranteeing you to have your third or your second for your Glanzel turn, or guaranteeing you a third if you do see 1 off of the top with him for your second Glanzel turn. Very, very good card. Next, we have 3 more copies of the grade 1. Again, I mentioned this. It gains 5k when a card in its column restands, allowing it to be a 13k booster, which is pretty good. 3 PGs because we do play the Elementaria. 4 copies of Bulbul Mine. Good countercharger. It's also Soul. I don't think anything in this deck uses Soul Blast, so that will never come up. However, the Counter Blast, the countercharge is relevant. 1 copy of Eldo Breath. Again, this is just, I put it in here. You can put whatever OT you want in here. Probably blue, probably red is the best one in this deck because it does allow for an extra attack if you check it. However, I will say, I think there's a valid argument to play the original Overtrigger from the Star decks. Again, 200 million. If you check that off your Rotovisor and let's say they PG or grade 3, you split that 100 million between your 2 rear guards you restood. Sick. 2 more PGs, buddy. And you definitely want your rear guards to hit. We'll talk about that in a minute. 4 effect crits. You don't need them, but I have them. 3 draw effect draws. I think the effect draws are actually pretty good in this deck. 4 vanilla crits. You could play 4 effect fronts here. I don't think fronts are terrible in this deck. 4 heals, 1 Elementaria, and then Nova Grapple. This is the arena. So if we get another arena, I think this deck is also going to be better, especially if it's a grade 1 arena. If we get a grade 1 arena, oh my gosh, this deck is busted. Like, actually so strong. A grade 1 arena that we can search on our grade 1 turn. Let me correct it, because if we could search it on our grade 1 turn and then guarantee 3 arenas by the time we're on grade 2, like, that's crazy. So Order Zone, when your unit attacks, if you have a Vanguard with Rotovisor in its name and another arena in your Order Zone was not rested this battle phase, rest this unit, choose a unit that attacked, and it gets, when this unit attack hits, countercharge 1 or energy charge 2 until the end of that battle. So basically, you can just rest this to make it so when one of your units hits, it's going to countercharge 1 or energy charge 2. The only problem is you can only use one of these per like battle. But if you have 2 in your Order Zone, you can tap them when the unit, like, on separate attacks. So basically, if you have all 4, you're going to, hopefully one of those attacks will be connecting and you'll at least be countercharging 1 or energy charging 2. So between this and Mine, typically your Vanguard will be free, if not only 1 counterblast, which I think is completely doable. So this was Rotovisor. Again, here is the code. I'll have it in the description as well as a timestamp to this deck. But I do think this is probably going to be one of, and I could be super wrong here, but this deck reads to me super, super busted. Okay. So I think look out for this deck in the future. If it's not strong off rip this weekend, look out for it in the future. If it gets 1 promo that lets it get an order on turn 1 or something like that, be careful, right? This deck's gonna be really good. On to our last deck though. Last but not least, we have Faded One of Time, Liael Immorta. Probably the most anticipated deck of this set, I would imagine. So we have one of our grade 0. We have our grade 1 in the ride line, which when it's written by the grade 2, you can Soul Blast 1, draw 2, choose 1 normal unit from your hand, pitch it. If you did not discard a card, choose 2 cards from your hand and pitch them. Just a little early extra cards. Played the grade 2, Player of Beautiful Chord. When written upon by Liael, choose any number of normal units in your drop, put them on the bottom of the deck. If you chose 3 or more, draw a card. So it really wants to put cards back on the bottom to draw. Next we have Liael Immorta herself. A lot of text on this bad girl. So we'll take it from the top. When this unit attacks, CB1, choose 1 rearguard, bind it, search your deck for up to 1 card with the same card name, call it to rearguard, shuffle your deck. So it's at least 4 attacks, okay? The second effect is when this unit is put on Guardian Circle, discard a card from your hand, put 2 cards from your bind zone to the bottom of the deck in any order, choose one of your units with Faded One in its card name, and it cannot be hit until the end of the battle. So it's a Sentinel without having Sentinel. Very good, and specifically Liael and Raziel, you're able to use this. It has the Divine Skill. At the end of the battle, this unit attacked. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, choose a card with the same card name as this unit from your drop. Ready to stand. If you wrote it, gets drive -1 until the end of your turn. So yeah, basically that Divine Skill is going to allow you to have 5 attacks, 2 of which being your Vanguard, at no cost other than you have to have another Liael in your drop zone, which you'll have because it's a perfect guard. Really, really cool. So yeah, that's Liael Immorta herself. Next we have probably like the best grade 2 in this deck. This is Sword Saint of Iterant, Idiris. During your turn, if your bind zone has a card name with the same card name as this unit, it gets plus 10k. So basically it's a 20k swing if you use Liael. When this unit is bound from rearguard during your turn, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Liael in its name, Soul Blast 1, draw a card, choose one of your Vanguards, gets plus 5k until the end of the turn. So this card just does so much for the deck. This is what you're going to be wanting to bind most of the time. Then you have Diana. Diana just says when placed on rearguard from deck, it gets plus 10k. So if you use Liael on your original Diana, make this Diana, this one gets bigger. Then we don't really have a whole lot to do yet in the deck, so we are playing 4 copies of Biscotti. I think this deck probably gets really good after his Festival Collection, because you definitely play the hostage stuff in this deck. The grade 2 and the chant are really cool in this deck. So right now we are playing Biscotti. I think Biscotti is just a really good gun cycler in general. So yeah, 4 copies of Biscotti. 4 copies of the double rare Euphoria. So during the battle, it's your 13k booster for Liael plus 2k if it boosts Liael specifically. And then its additional effect is Soul Blast 1, choose one card name with the same card name as any of your units from your drop, put it on the bottom deck, gets an additional 5k. So this one's a little better because it can potentially be bigger swings or buffing another rear guard, which is cool. 4 copies of our countercharger, Grhyaundra. If your unit was placed by the ability of your Vanguard with Divine Skill this turn, this unit gets at the end of the battle, this unit boosted, retire this unit, countercharge 1, gets plus 5k. Pretty good, pretty nice way to countercharge, as well as making more numbers. Again, 13k, not bad. This wouldn't be a Keter deck if we didn't play some Keter pile. Zorga is the best card in Keter Sanctuary in my opinion at the current moment, and this card is broken. I'm not going to go over it because you probably know what Zorga doesn't. If you don't, read this card. Very, very strong. You definitely play Zorga. 3 PGs, because why not? 2 copies of Topaz. You can definitely resolve more than 1 Topaz in this deck. I don't love Topaz in per se. I definitely think this is one of the cards that gets cut when Festival Booster drops in a couple weeks, because like this definitely just, the hostage stuff is just better than this card. So right now Topaz is just a placeholder. So yeah, 1 Keter OT. This is not optimal in this deck, I won't lie to you. You definitely should probably be playing blue or red in this deck. Probably red for the potential 6th attack. But blue is also pretty good in this deck. Just allowing you to get, you basically have 8 PGs in this deck, or 7 PGs in an Elementaria. So like it allows you to get more back into rotation. But blue or red is definitely what you should be playing. If you want to play the Keter OT, you can. It does give your rears drive checks. And you are attacking with multiple rears. So that's cool. Next you have 4 effect crits. You don't need the effect crits, but I play them. 3 effect draws. I think these are pretty good. And Liael is having the draw triggers, and you only really want to be playing draw triggers if you have the effect triggers. So, you know, 3 of Perobi, 4 vanilla crit, 4 vanilla heal. The Grail is our Regalis piece because Persona Rating is good. I will say you could play Bracing Angel Ladder in this deck, and it's probably pretty good in this deck. Because like most Keter decks, they lose pretty hard to Share Nui and just losing rear guards in general, and Bracing Angel is pretty good at not letting you lose rear guards. And then of course our last card is that 1 Elementaria Sanctitude, because we played 3 PGs. So this is my Liael Immortalist. I will have that deck code in the and timestamp in the description down below for anyone who wants to visit this part or go check out the deck yourselves. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. It was a lot of work to make all these decks and record this really long video. If you did enjoy this video though, please, it would appreciate it a lot if you left a like, comment, subscribe. And if you can't think of anything to comment, just comment letting me know which deck you are most excited for in Divine's set 2. Of course, for me, it is Blangdmire. I like Blangdmire a lot. It reminds me a lot of my days playing in G with the leaders. So I really look forward to playing Blangdmire. But I also think Glanzel Rotovisor could be very, very strong. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below on which deck you are looking forward to most in Divine set 2. That being said, I'll see you all later. Peace!